guess what?
What?
Welcome back to Pixel Response. I'm Paul.
Hey, I'm Nathan.
Yeah, that was cold. That was a cold intro right there.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying my delivery was cold.
No, not your delivery. It was just a cold intro because we just kind of started.
Well, yeah, but you don't have to talk about that. I guess we're all about full disclosure, though, right?
We're all about full disclosure, always pulling the curtain back.
Right, and we're also live, broadcasting right now, so if we say things to some other person, that's actually to live people that are no longer live. They might still be alive.
I hope that everybody listening to us now is alive in some way, but I really hope that the people listening to us live right now are alive by the time other people can hear this.
Yeah, but that obviously won't forever be true, you know.
No, because unfortunately technology surpasses our capabilities as humans of living.
Wait, so we should probably say what day we're recording now, too, right? Just for full?
Maybe, so I should just be like, it's Monday.
December 3rd.
It's Monday, December 3rd. Welcome to the Pixel Response Podcast. Wow. Yeah, exactly. That
starts and it sounds all weird. Okay, yeah. What do you want to talk about, Paul?
I want to talk about movies because you watched a bunch of them, and I care about two of them.
Great, thanks.
I'm sorry. I'm just being honest. Okay, let's start with the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, because I don't care about that one very much.
Okay, well that's too bad, because it's the best movie I watched this week.
Okay.
But I think that's safe to say. Anyway, I've owned it for some years. I never watched it.
Yeah.
Because it's like 2 hours and 40 minutes, and I heard it was really slow.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
I guess it is, but it still had me pretty engaged in everything that was happening, and there was so much stuff I just admired about it that I thought it was great. So, it is directed by a guy named Andrew Dominic.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, his first movie is called Chopper, which I haven't seen, but I'll look for that now. It's about Eric Bana. Or no, it stars Eric Bana as from...
It's about Eric Bana.
It's about Eric Bana and how tough he is. But I guess he's from Australia or New Zealand or somewhere down there.
Okay.
But anyway, this movie is about Jesse James, the notorious outlaw, and kind of his final days, months.
Before really. He was assassinated by the coward Robert Ford?
Yeah, it tells you right there in the name what ultimately happens. And it's kind of about the dynamic between this really kind of introverted, quiet, awkward dude named Robert Ford, who is like a big fan of his adventures, Jesse James, like he grew up reading about him.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I haven't seen the movie The Fan, full transparency.
Okay. But
it seemed to kind of have that kind of obsessed, or I guess another Robert De Niro movie, the one about the comedian, King of Comedy. King of Comedy, did you see it?
No, I never did.
Okay, great. Well, for those out there, King of Comedy, Robert De Niro plays this kind of obsessed comedian who kidnaps this dude. Whatever. It has a similar dynamic between the characters as that, and I thought that was great. And yeah, it is kind of slow and contemplative and stuff, but in a way that, I don't know, felt appropriate. And the cast was cool. Sam Rockwell's there. Jeremy Renner, probably my favorite. I've seen him. He's in a really great scene. He's in several scenes, but there's one specifically that was really, really cool.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know. It was just stylish, well shot. It's Roger Deakins, my favorite cinematographer guy. And I don't know. I really recommend it. But I really kind of watched that, just kind of catch up and do some homework for another movie I saw later.
Right.
So I guess we can just bundle those together. I saw Killing Them Softly.
Okay.
Which is the new Andrew Dominic film. It's his first film in like 5 years. Also starring Brad Pitt, who I guess they work together really well, and I'm under the impression like Brad Pitt really enjoys working with this guy because he said the assassination of Jesse James was like the favorite thing he's ever done. So, you know, that reteaming kind of had some people excited.
Yeah.
I really like the movie, but the critical community is super divided on it, as are fans, which has me confused because I'm not sure what they wanted. It's like a pretty straightforward gangster crime movie. Kind of reminded me of like Coen brother stuff with like some Tarantino-esque things in there, but I don't know. It had a lot of style, had a kind of pretty overt political side to it.
Okay.
I thought was cool. Like it's It's set in 2008. Hurricane Katrina apparently post like New Orleans, all that stuff. They don't really get into New Orleans though. Like I honestly watched the whole movie, did not realize it was set in New Orleans. It kind of doesn't matter. The main thing was the political stuff. Like there's all the debates and things going on because of the election, and like the recession was about to start and all that stuff was happening, and they kind of really clearly tie the problems these criminals are having with their economy with the economy at large, and like turning on each other and all this bad business going down, kind of relating it to just like underworld is very to the overworld in terms of how they work, which I thought was really, really cool. And I have a low opinion of government, so it made sense for me.
Right,
like,
yeah.
That's the thing. Like, this movie is political observations, and like the final monologue that Brad Pitt's character has just like made me go just like, hell yeah, that was awesome. So maybe I'm like in a weird niche of people that thought that was really cool. Whereas if you disagree with their opinions, you're going to find it like a really cynical, mean movie. So maybe that's what's happening, but I don't know. I thought it was really, really great. And yeah, style for days. Like it just has some really bizarre sound design stuff. Like there's a scene where a dude gets beat up.
Okay.
The most savage beating a dude up scene I've probably ever seen. Simply because the sounds, you just hear crunches and like heavy breathing and all this stuff like really, really clearly.
Worse than Irreversible?
Irreversible?
Dude gets his head beat in?
Yeah, like you feel it more. I actually watched that scene again lately, the Irreversible scene. And yeah, it's more just because you hear it and you can imagine what's happening internally, you know? Like, it's not you don't see a dude's head get crushed. Like, that's a very visceral kind of thing in its own way, but this was more... I don't know. There was something pretty just upsetting about it. It was cool. But I guess it didn't gross me out, whereas that scene kind of rattled me in a different way. I don't know. That's a weird comparison. But whatever. Cast of kind of pretty well-regarded people. Like, Brad Pitt's in it, obviously. Who all... Like, Richard Jenkins. James Gandolfini is a pretty... Like, you know, he's a pretty prominent character, but I think for me, like, that seemed to be them kind of leaning on his Sopranos reputation.
Right.
And I've never really seen or cared about that. So there, like, I'm going to say the one scene in the movie I just thought kind of fell flat for me was a long conversation with James Gandolfini's character.
Okay, like, one of the things I was going to ask you is James Gandolfini basically just playing James Gandolfini and Ray Liotta playing Ray Liotta? Like, are they just there because you know what they do?
Well, like, they have reputations within the, like, gangster movie, like, type or whatever, so I think Ray Liotta's kind of playing against type in that. Like, usually he's kind of the tough guy who's in control. Here he's kind of like this just happy-go-lucky guy who ends up in a bad spot.
Okay, so, I wouldn't say he was in control at all in Goodfellas, but okay.
Well, I mean, like...
Or a tough guy, really.
Well, he hits that guy a bunch in the face with that gun.
Right.
In Goodfellas, and here he's the one getting kind of shoved, right? Like, they just kind of put him in a weaker role. And the same with Gandolfini, really. Like, he, you know, he's the boss in Sopranos, is my understanding. He's the guy. He's still got problems, though. I know I saw the first episodes. Here he's just, like, falling apart. Okay. Brief aside, I just want to briefly comment. I said some stuff on Twitter already about this, but I read Roger Ebert's review today of this movie, and I just want to highlight one key part. He does not really seem to know who James Gandolfini's character is in the movie, okay?
What do you mean?
In his review, he kind of is summarizing the plot, and he's like, all right, so James Gandolfini is this East Coast crime boss who comes into town to kind of order a hit on these two criminals who committed this crime. And I was just like, that's not the case at all.
Right.
He's actually the guy who's supposed to commit the hit. He's a low-level guy in this movie. And he is brought in by Brad Pitt's character to perform a hit because he knows one of the guys they're supposed to hit, and he doesn't want to do it himself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it's just like, I don't know. It just really jumped out at me as just like, veteran movie critic has no idea what's going on in movie, you know? Like, it was kind of embarrassing. I was like, what? How did this happen? How is this printed in anything? How is this an authoritative voice in the movie criticism world if he can't even keep the plot straight of this pretty cut and dry gangster movie?
Right.
Ugh. Yeah.
You've had problems with him before, though, so this is just adding on to that pile.
I know, like, it's not that he didn't like the movie, like, that's fine. Someone could look at this movie as being like, yeah, it's like a lot of gangster movies. And it's like, you're right, that's fine. But to just kind of completely misunderstand what a character's place in the story was, just seemed like you weren't paying attention, you need a notepad, like, what, I don't know. The two main guys, Russell, okay, Scoot McNairy, and Ben Mendelsohn play kind of like the two criminals who perform this crime early in the movie that causes all the problems. I guess I should briefly summarize the plot, maybe?
Maybe.
Sorry, yeah, I've gone on for a bit without doing that. Okay, it's 2008.
Mm-hmm.
The election's going on, and all that stuff's happening in the background.
Okay.
There is a high-stakes poker game that is being run by Ray Liotta's character.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah. It's already been robbed once by Marky. He ordered his own card game to get robbed in order to just kind of clean up from all these big kingpins. A bunch of time went by, though, and eventually he just kind of let that slip, and everyone liked that guy. Like, you know, all the gangsters really like him. So they're just like, oh, that's so dumb. Why would you do that? And they kind of let it slide.
Mm-hmm.
Now, fast forward to way later, this other guy named Squirrel realized this has happened, and he wants to rob it because he knows that the gangsters will then assume it was probably him again, is his assumption.
Okay.
He's like, well, you know, maybe they'll assume it was him. He can't be trusted, and then they'll just kill him, and then we'll be in the clear. That doesn't work, and Jackie Cogan is Brad Pitt's character. He comes in to kind of clean up the whole mess, and he quickly figures out what's going on. And the whole movie is kind of like him cleaning up that mess, and how the different criminals are all aware of each other and familiar with each other, and all this weird, messy stuff that happens. The thing the movie does really, really well is establishing the friendship between Russell and Frankie, like the two bumbling criminals, really quickly. So by the time they're actually in there performing the crime, I was like so tensed up because it's just like, oh no, I like these guys. I've only been here for 10 minutes, but they spent those 10 minutes making this comedic, lighthearted thing happen, and then it went all dark for a bit.
Right.
And it kind of plays the audience really, really well in a way that had me really, really invested. And it also just has really great visual style to it. I guess they're using a new type of Kodak film that hasn't been used before. It's like a low-budget movie. It only costs $15 million, but it has some just really slick, images and sound design stuff, like I already said. And I don't know. I was thoroughly engaged by the whole thing. It does have a kind of nihilistic tone to it, but that's kind of what reminded me of the Coens, so I was happy with that too. But I guess, yeah, it's just not really sitting well with a lot of people. It did pretty poorly over the weekend, too. It made less than $7 million.
Okay.
Apparently is just kind of unsatisfactory for a Brad Pitt movie in 2012.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I encourage people to go see it. It's less ambitious, maybe, than Assassination of Jesse James. Like, it's not a big, giant, sprawling movie. It's like 95 minutes or whatever. But it kind of spends its time wisely, and even though it's short, it has kind of long scenes that are given time to breathe and kind of have a lot of stuff going on within them. So, yeah, I really liked it. It's probably one of my top 10 movies of this year, for sure. So, there you go. It's a good movie. Do you have any questions about it?
It seems like something I would probably see on a Tuesday, on a cheap movie day.
That's fair. That's a way to go. Yeah, I was just kind of keen on the whole thing, but yeah, it is definitely worth the time. I guess the political agenda people thought maybe was either too heavy-handed or something, but to me, it kind of just sat there in the background for most of the movie, and then they kind of explained why it's there towards the end, and it tied in a way that was pretty cool. And for me, it gave it more because it's a fair criticism to be like, why are you making yet another gangster movie? This one kind of tells you why. It's like, well, we wanted to use it as this analogy. And I was like, oh, that's fine. Like, at least you had a reason, and that actually at least gives it more purpose than most gangster movies, which is kind of celebrate criminals for no reason.
Right.
This one kind of is like, no, you're not supposed to want to be in this business. It's a bad business. People die. It's more just like, is there really that much that separates this business that's driven by greed and money versus this legitimate business that's also driven by greed and money? You know? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. These are valid questions. Thanks, Andrew.
So, and the dude gets beat.
Dude gets beat. People get shot. It is vicious in that way. I guess brief other thing that, you know, like I've brought up the Coens. Specifically, there were little bits here and there that remind me of No Country for Old Men, which is one of my favorite movies. So hopefully that means something. Like I really liked it. So yeah, both of my thumbs are up, and my toes. It was a good movie.
Both thumbs and toes. So 4 appendages up.
Yeah, 4 appendages up. Nathaniel Rohr put that on the poster.
Just, it wasn't good enough to get that 5th one up, though, huh?
I don't have a... Oh, no. I see what you... Yeah, clever.
I think the best part of that was how you were like, I don't have... Oh.
I understand. No, I don't get off on violence, Paul. Come on.
Okay, well, we can't all be perfect.
Yeah.
Alright, so I had a segue into the next film, but it's lost, so what did you think of Life of Pi?
Oh, okay. Life of Pi is the new film by Ang Lee.
Yeah.
Director of, you know, Crouching Tiger, Brokeback Mountain, stuff like that.
Yep.
Hulk movie, you know, the good one. Oh! This is a movie about, wow, okay. I'm trying to just really think what's pertinent and what spoils things and what doesn't.
Well, it's based on the book.
It's based on the book. I didn't know there was a book until there was a trailer for this movie. So.
Oh,
you know,
really? Because that book has been out forever.
It's like a decade or something, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I remember people talking about that when I was still in school.
All right.
I never read it, so.
Okay. There definitely is a thing to spoil in this movie, but basically it's a survival story. It's kind of like a, you know, that part of Castaway where he's on the boat with Wilson?
Yeah.
Replace Wilson with a tiger, and you have a movie.
Right.
And yeah, it was visually pretty awesome. It has a much bigger intro than I thought. Like, it's kind of about this kid kind of wrestling with what religion he wants to kind of side himself with. Growing up with an atheist father and a religious mother, and kind of all these little differences of philosophy and whatnot. Before the disaster happens and his ship is hit by a big storm and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of neat. Like, I just didn't know that was part of the story. All the trailers kind of really emphasized the ship business. I will say the framing narrative, like, the whole thing is kind of couched in an author is visiting this guy and getting his story. Some of that stuff is super corny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just in the worst kind of, like, after the movie, in discussion, Forrest Gump was brought up. You know, like, sitting on a bench, talking about your life, like that kind of cheesy, whimsical business.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you like that stuff, fine, but I don't know. There was a couple lines here and there that were definitely kind of eye-rolly. Like, just like, you know, specifically, it's just like, I'm not an idiot. You don't have to spell out the plot for me again in conversation after I just saw it happen. But it kind of feels the need to do that, which I thought was kind of stupid. But overall, yeah, it's just a survival story with a kind of different take to it. And there's a pretty solid late plot reveal that kind of recontextualizes things and makes you think about it, at least for a little bit. So, yeah, I don't know. It was good. Do you have questions?
Did you watch it in 3D?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I really remember. It is a visually kind of, like, there's a lot going on, ship sinking, animals all around and stuff, but I'm not going to say there was any specific moment that was like, yeah, that 3D, that really helped things.
Right.
It definitely didn't hinder in any way, but I don't know. I'm assuming if you just saw it in a nice, big, well-projected HD thing, that would be fine too.
Right.
So it's not necessary, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 3D AVX is how I saw it.
Ooh, AVX.
Yeah.
Look at you go spending all the money on a movie you don't really care for that much.
I want to say we saw it on a Tuesday.
Oh, okay, so half price.
Yeah, even then
Roughly.
though,
It's
like
still pricey, I know.
I think it worked out to being like 11.75 or something, even with all the discounts for it being on a Tuesday. So yeah, basically full price, but it was a Tuesday. But yeah, I don't know. It was one of the few movies this year I thought to kind of mention to my mom as a movie she might get something out of. It's like a very safe family adventure in a lot of ways.
Did you go with your family then?
I did not, because they are kind of scattered around in different. Like my sister's in BC right now, and
Oh, I thought she came back.
no, she's still out there. So yeah, I didn't even think it would be appropriate for that though. I wasn't really sure what kind of movie it was. So in retrospect, but I don't really want to see it again. It's more just like they can go see it. But yeah, it was pretty good.
Right.
Tigers. There's a tiger in it. Tiger's pretty good.
Okay. Sounds good. So, arguably the most important movie you saw, Runaway.
Oh yeah, no, this was
Which Runaway is this? Because I keep thinking The Runaways, and I'm pretty sure that's not what you're talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're thinking of that movie about the band. This movie is arguably much more important. It is a 1984
The Tom Selleck one?
Tom Selleck film about a cop who has to take down robots.
Robots, yeah.
Michael Crichton directed it. He is well regarded within, robot circles.
Gene Simmons is in it.
Gene Simmons is in it, who initially, upon hearing he was in it, my brain miscategorized all of that and assumed Richard Simmons was in it.
So you were disappointed.
I was immediately disappointed.
Yeah.
When he showed up, and it was just like, what? You're telling me that's Richard Simmons? That looks nothing like him. And it's like, no, it's Gene Simmons. Oh, all right. So yeah, it immediately slid from like a 9 to like a 7, but it's still pretty fun.
Yeah. Was it pretty good?
I had fun with it. It is like super doofy, kind of like weird future world where robots exist and are in every part of our lives, but they're also hideous. Like they're just the most poorly designed, boxy looking things ever. Mm-hmm. So it's like, imagine you had a robot that was basically just a overhead projector on wheels that rolled around in your house.
I imagine that every day. So this movie is probably something I would enjoy.
And it like barely has a face or anything for you to really look at to interface with it. Like it's just like technology somehow went in this weird direction that makes no sense at all. But yet robots are everywhere. And they pretty frequently malfunction and kill people, so you need a designated unit of the police to stop that from happening.
Right.
And yeah, Tom Selleck's character has like pretty few distinguishing things. The one they make sure you know, he's afraid of heights. Which, guess what? That plays into the finale.
At the very end, yeah. Of course it does, because it's an 80s movie.
Right. So it follows, like, that 80s cop movie cliches, like, exactly. Like, it's like you're watching Cobra or something, except there's robots. And Gene Simmons is so ridiculously villainous looking all the time. Like, just, giving you this death stare all the time, which is apparently why he was cast. It's a great story. He apparently just looked at Michael Crichton menacingly, and Michael Crichton was like, yeah, you're the guy. And that was it. He was in the movie. And it's so stupid. The one thing that really I thought was just amazing and hilarious and tied right into my video game enthusiasm, have you ever played Shadows of the Empire?
Yes.
Okay, you know the Seeker missile?
Yes.
That is from this movie.
Oh, really?
Like, there's basically that exact thing. Like, Gene Simmons has a gun. He fires it. The camera immediately switches to the first-person missile view. And it's like flying around and steering around after specific characters.
Well, that's like the Nikita missile in Metal Gear Solid as well.
Right, but then that made me remember Shadows of the Empire predated Metal Gear Solid.
Yes.
My goodness, that's where that came from.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's great. But in either case, both of those come from Runaway.
Right.
Or presumably, I don't know. But yeah, it's such a ridiculous weapon. And yeah, I don't know. It's like... definitely skirts that line. Like, it came out in 84, which is the year PG-13 existed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I don't know, it falls in like this weird category where it's like, this is almost R, but it's still PG-13. Like, there's just nudity in it a couple times. Just like topless women, whatever. But that's fine, because it's the 80s, so PG-13, don't worry about it. There's also like people exploding, and he definitely uses the word fuck once, I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe more, but at least once. So yeah, I don't know. That's probably how it's categorized as such. But don't worry about it. It's just goofy robot crime movie, and yeah, Netflix, man, that's why I have it for stuff like that.
So that is on Netflix, then I could watch it. Okay.
I guess Brittany and I specifically sought it out because Community makes mention of it in
Mhm.
one of the episodes. Like, I guess the Kick Puncher or whatever.
Yeah.
When they're talking about those, I think they bring up Robot Spiders and Tom Selleck.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because, yeah, there's these kind of mines that are like little six-legged crawling robot things that then drill into you and explode.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some funny, inventive robots in it, despite how dumb it is. So, yeah. For what it is, perfect.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Cool. So, the last one you have listed here, you have projectionist problems on it.
Yeah.
So, 7 Psychopaths.
Right. This is the new Martin McDonagh film, who directed In Bruges a couple years ago. He's also well regarded for kind of dark criminal short films with Brendan Gleeson, typically, or whatever.
Mhm.
Anyway, this movie I meant to see some time ago. I just never really got the opportunity. It has a bunch of people I like in it. Sam Rockwell, Christopher Walken. I have a generally positive opinion of Colin Farrell nowadays. He kind of turned it around the last couple years for me. So he's in there too. Tom Waits is in it. There's some cool cats. Woody Harrelson.
Nice.
Gabourey Sidibe. I'm not actually a big fan of hers.
So, what's the premise of this one?
Oh, okay. This is basically one of those movies. Okay, it's kind of like a blood-soaked, violent criminal version of Adaptation.
Okay, awesome.
Because, like, there's a character in the movie named Marty, or Martin. The director's name is Martin McDonagh, who is a writer struggling to come up with ideas for his new crime movie.
Okay.
And the crime movie he is writing is called 7 Psychopaths. And he's trying to come up with characters for it, and through various people he meets and friends he knows and stories he hears, he's kind of assembling this story as that story is playing out for us, the audience.
Right.
Like, it's that movie within a movie kind of thing. And I'm going to say maybe to a fault. Like, it's so self-referential to the point where it was almost like, alright. Like, at some point, even my tolerance for that kind of stuff was just, like, a little thin.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the performances are still there, and there's some really great kind of dark comedy stuff. That, yeah, Martin McDonagh, if anything, like, have you seen In Bruges?
I haven't, no.
Okay. Like, he does this great kind of balance between, like, really dark, serious, bad stuff, and just goofy comedy. So, like, it'll be like in that movie, in Bruges, it's like, oh, kind of a lighthearted buddy movie. Except the reason they're doing any of this stuff is because he totally murdered a kid and is feeling horrible about it. And, like, all this kind of, there's this, like, dark layer to everything that's happening. Similarly, in this movie, like, it's kind of goofy, fun stuff with, like, these, like, Sam Rockwell's character, his job with Christopher Walken is stealing dogs.
Okay.
And returning them a little bit later when the rich people who own the dogs put up a reward poster and then get a couple $100 or whatever. Like, that's their scam.
I'm pretty sure there was a David Spade movie based on that, too.
Okay. But, like, that's all goofy David Spade caliber goofiness.
Yeah.
And then people start getting shot and it goes all bad.
Oh, okay.
because they steal a gangster's favorite Shih Tzu. And he doesn't have any sense of humor about that stuff. That guy's played by Woody Harrelson.
I think the dog in the David Spade one was a Shih Tzu as well.
Weird.
Yeah.
So he was partially inspired by that. I don't know. I don't know enough about David Spade's career.
He doesn't have one. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. Tommy Boy. That was a movie.
That's when he was still relevant, at least, though.
I know, like Saturday Night Live, all that stuff. But
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, like they piss off the wrong guy, bad things start happening. Yeah, like there's still some genuinely kind of clever uses of the screenplay within the movie joke, like that like specifically one sequence that they kind of leave unaddressed until way later in the movie, when someone points out like, why is this part in your screenplay, like one of the characters, and it's like, oh right, that scene from earlier that has yet to be explained in the movie I'm watching. Like there were some great kind of little things like that. The reason I cite projectionist problems though is because there's even a joke in the movie about some note being left in the end credits.
Okay.
And as I'm sitting there in the theater watching the end credits, I guess the theater was just like, no, it's 11:40, I'm done. They just turned off everything. And I was
weird.
so annoyed. Like I was just like, is it really that big of a deal to just wait like 3 more minutes so I know whether or not they went the full mile and actually put that joke in there too? Like, come on. I left pretty kind of pissed off that they would do that. This was at the second run theater though, so I don't have like the highest expectations for that stuff.
Right, yeah. They're pretty bad in general.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nice building though. I don't know.
Yeah.
I always like the building that they threw the movie dome in.
Mm-hmm. The movie dome?
Well, if I'm talking about the movie dome specifically.
Oh, okay. This was Canyon Meadows actually, which is, I'm gonna say, maybe a little cleaner and tidier than.
Probably, yeah. Because the movie dome is in the Northeast, and that's where the bad people live.
I didn't say that, but okay, fair enough. I went to Dark Shadows there. That was the last time I was there. It's just kind of sticky. I mean, it's just like the floors, like soda gets spilled and they don't deal with
And they have a weird queue line thing with the velvet ropes at the very front that you don't need because there's never a line.
There's never that many people there.
There's never like any people there. There's maybe a family with like kids if there's a kid movie playing, but other than that, it's pretty much. Oh, yeah. So as a little side note, totally did some weird things in that theater. But anyways.
Okay.
There's nobody there. What do you want? So yeah. Is that like all you have to say about Seven Psychopaths?
I guess. Like, it's kind of funny. A bunch of actors I like do have performances in there, so that's fine. But yeah, maybe a little too, quote, clever at times.
Good.
To the point where it's like not really that funny. But I don't know. Overall, okay, I guess final thought on it, like I really doubt it holds up to a second viewing. Like, I'm just gonna say, like, that's kind of the feeling I got. Like, a lot of it was kind of the surprise as how violent they got, or kind of weird jokes they throw in there. Mm-hmm. Without that surprise, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't really be that interesting. So yeah, it's like a generally well-made movie, but not one for kind of a bunch of scrutiny, really. Like, they do some fun stuff that I felt was kind of pretty inside. Like, the movie opens with Michael Pitt and Michael Stuhlbarg talking. Mm-hmm. And, like, they've both played gangster-type characters in Boardwalk Empire and stuff together.
You're going to say Brokeback Mountain.
Broke Walk Empire.
Walk Empire, okay.
Yeah, like, that they paired those two actors in those kind of roles and stuff seemed like kind of a fun little self-aware joke thing. But, but it was early in the movie, so I wasn't, like, exhausted by that kind of stuff. And they're fun guys. I like those actors. Like, yeah, there's just a lot of actors throughout that I was happy to see. But then it kind of wore out after a while. But that's the thing. Like, the movie's all clever about it, too. Like, it kind of says that as much in the movie. Like, it's like, hanging out with psychopaths gets a little old after a while, doesn't it? And you're just like, it does. But you saying it does doesn't make it not true.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I get that that this is kind of tired, but
But at the same time, why are you doing it?
Right. Like, it's kind of, I don't know, a little cheeky or something. It didn't quite. It's not like one of my favorites or something, but I don't regret seeing it.
Right.
Yeah. In Bruges, I think, might be a more satisfying thing. It has more going on with its characters. But all right, I've already talked about this movie a bunch. Let's move on to your films.
I finally saw ParaNorman.
Good?
I like it a lot, actually.
Okay, good. I liked it too.
And it was actually a blind buy. So I'm really glad that I liked it, because that would have sucked.
Yeah, I haven't done a blind buy in a while. Well, except like cheap stuff. Like it's $5 or
I guess
something.
I wasn't too blind because a bunch of people that have seen it loved it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So you had a
yeah.
pretty good bet that you'd enjoy it. But
And I had seen screenshots and like the trailer and stuff, and I figured I would probably like it. But yeah, it's a really enjoyable movie. A lot of people that you recognize their voices, but
mm-hmm.
for me, it was hard to place a few of them. Like Anna Kendrick specifically, even though I've seen so many movies with her lately,
Yeah.
I recognized her voice the whole time, and yet I couldn't pinpoint it. And then I got to the credits, yeah, I don't know. I just flipped out because I should have gotten that. But
Okay.
Casey Affleck was pretty obvious. Christopher Mintz-Plasse or whatever was really
Yeah.
obvious. Leslie
Yeah.
Mann, actually Aaron got. I didn't even get that one. Jeff Garlin, I couldn't remember his name, but I remembered his face, so I'm counting that.
Okay.
And like John Goodman, obviously,
Right.
because
Right.
it's John Goodman. He has one of the most iconic voices ever
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to this sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I was gonna buy the 3D version of it, and I tried texting you to see if it was worth the $5 extra, and then you got back to me a little too late. I had already bought the Blu-ray, so
Oh, okay.
yeah. But I am a big fan of what those guys are doing. Like I like Coraline quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
so it was
Like
nice.
the same animations. What are they called again?
What?
What's
Leica?
the Leica? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really like their style. It's almost like a stop motion, like Pixar-y type animation that they do, but it's very clean. So I don't know. I'm just a big fan of it. I don't know what else I could really say about it because we kind of covered quite a bit of things
Well,
when you saw it.
right. Like specifically, did you like it the way I did, where they actually find a neat way to use zombies? That was a thing I quite enjoyed.
Oh, where they kind of turned it on its head and it's like, no, the zombies aren't actually bad.
Like, yeah, what they're doing isn't evil. They're just trying to
They're just
solve
dead
this
people.
problem. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. And I thought it actually, unlike Frankenweenie, as I said, like the last bit where it kind of hits its message home, it actually had something to say.
Yeah, it was a really strong message and the way they presented it was actually really good too.
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole
So,
time you're just thinking that this witch is just like a witch, like just evil.
yeah.
And then you find out that there's some other factors behind why she's that way, and then they kind of deal with that. So, very strong. They hit it home really hard.
Right, and I was trying to think, like, like I've obviously heard some of these sentiments before, but it was like, this is a quality kids movie because it actually has a good way of saying an important thing. So,
Yeah.
hey, good job. Also, that bit with the bass, that Dizzy Rascal song, that was pretty funny, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty good.
I thought that was hilarious.
That's actually hilarious.
No, dude, I was giggling a few minutes later, just thinking back to how stupid that scene was. But whatever.
Yeah.
There's like a breakdancing competition for no reason. Like they don't really set it up. It's just going on. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also really like that the main jock guy turned out to be
Mm.
gay.
Oh, okay.
That was pretty good.
It's kind of like more real world business in your kids' movies.
Yeah, it's pretty
Multiple
good.
layers. Yeah.
Like an onion. It has layers. Shrek reference. Anyway. So yeah, I watched that, and it was part of this whole thing where I went out and I bought a bunch of shit because I haven't actually been to a store where I bought stuff new in a long time. I usually just buy things secondhand for really cheap at a pawn shop if I want to see it, or Netflix for free. Well, for $8 a month or whatever. But so I bought Cabin in the Woods because it was for $15 on Blu-ray,
All right.
which
That's
I thought
quality.
is pretty good price, and I really like that movie. So I watched that again. And watching it again, knowing the whole, like, what they're trying to do, the context it's in,
Yeah.
makes that movie a lot better because you pick up on the little things you missed before, like a lot of the dialogue that the director specifically says and her whole crew of the agents and stuff. The way they talk, it really drives home this idea.
That first scene specifically, because like initially it has no context at all, but then if you listen to it again, it's like, oh no, this all makes sense. Like they were very transparent about what they were saying. You just didn't know yet.
Mhm.
So yeah, like I thought you though specifically figured out what was going to happen while watching it the first time, right?
Like, what do you
Like
mean?
well, specifically like after I think we discussed like after the second kill, you're kind of like, oh, I see what's happening.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Whereas before, I kind of like even then I didn't really think about that stuff going on.
Yeah,
So
but there's a whole lot more context with the dialogue, I mean.
yeah,
Like, just knowing this whole idea that the old gods is actually us as the movie viewing, specifically horror fan audience.
Mm-hmm.
And then a bunch of stuff they say related to that, like the little intricate things that you only pick up after you've already had time to process what was going on.
Right.
It really hits that home even harder. Like, they added a lot of good dialogue in there for the second viewing that makes sense. And I
Right.
really like when movies do that, where there's a kind of a twist, I guess. And everything that happened in the movie before was totally fair. And, like, if you had thought deeply into it, you would have gotten the first time as well.
Right. It's not like they had to lie to you. They just kind of
Right, where like, oh no, none of this before this twist made sense. It's the whole like, well, I mean, what Shyamalan was good at once upon a time ago. I haven't really seen much from him lately, but where after watching, knowing what would happen in The Sixth Sense, watching everything before it made sense, like how nobody ever made eye contact or talked directly to Bruce Willis and all that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so just little stuff like that. It also is in Cabin in the Woods, mostly in dialogue and that whole thing. And then of course the payoff with all the monsters is just great. So there's that too.
Yeah, like specifically, I haven't had a home viewing experience. Both times I saw it was in a theater. So, like, did you pause during the board, the betting board, and like the big shot of all the cages and stuff, or
Sorry, what's that?
like did you take advantage of the fact that you could pause and kind of really look at some of the
I
jokes,
didn't
or?
because I was watching it with Erin and she hadn't ever seen it before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I didn't want to do any of that. And then there's
You don't really want to ruin what's happening by. Yeah. Okay.
Right. And the whole time, like after even, there's a whole bunch of other stuff, supplementary content you can get into.
Mm-hmm.
That I just didn't because I didn't want, like, I wanted it to maybe soak in a little bit more, kind of like how we had time up until now. But I will go through it again with a commentary and look at all the secondary stuff they throw in there, and I'll report back on what I think of that, I guess. But, or even we could watch it together, I guess.
I guess, yeah, sometime. I'm trying to think. It's been probably 5 months since I saw it last time. So
yeah,
that's a decent amount of space. It's a fun movie.
Since it came out, right?
Well, yeah, since it was in theaters, but I saw it again about a month later.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Like, I was like, oh, dude, a friend of mine loves horror movies, let's go. And then he brought up, like, he'd already seen a lot of Buffy, and I guess they kind of mine similar territory.
Well, it is Joss Whedon.
Right. Well, the writer. Because,
yeah.
I don't know, I always find this one of those odd movies where, like, actually, Nightmare on Elm Street, blah. Nightmare Before Christmas came up in the chat, and that's the movie that's, like, constantly misapplied to being Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Despite the fact he didn't direct it. I think the same might happen with Drew Goddard in this movie. Like, it's just like, oh man, yeah, I love Joss Whedon. It's like, he wasn't making this movie. He wrote it and then left and made Avengers.
Well, and produced it.
Yeah.
And with
really
with a producing credit, you have to assume you have some say in it because it's your money going into it.
Yeah. I'm just saying Drew gets overlooked, man.
Oh, yeah, totally. No, they both do a great job.
Right.
So, yeah.
Just pouring one out for Drew.
He's not dead.
He's not dead, but, you know.
Yet.
Yeah. He did an AMA on Reddit and stuff, too, and I was like, hey, how does it feel getting overshadowed? He didn't answer that one. But, you know.
Yeah, that's a super rude thing to ask.
I'm just asking.
Why are you so...
What
has happened to you where you're so angry and mean to everyone?
I'm not angry. I'm just blunt.
You're just passive aggressive.
Little bit. I'm gonna cop out a bit, say it's probably seasonal affect disorder. It's dark out, you know? Darkness outside means
I'm pretty sure I actually get that because around this time I get really reclusive and don't talk to people very much.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Anyways, so that's it for movies.
Okay.
And I think it's time maybe we give something out.
Okay. The
Okay.
chat's having a great discussion right now. I'm not sure if you're watching it, but...
Oh, yeah. I'm trying not to watch it because it's taking my mind away from what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, I'm reading it, and I see a bunch of stuff about marriage and video games. So...
And sandwiches.
And sandwiches. Sandwiches are pretty important.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we got, for any iOS users in the chat, we have a copy of Catch-22 we can give out, a code for that. For Steam users, we have a few codes for a game called Home, an indie game made by Benjamin Rivers, who will actually be on our interview podcast, Indie Talks, in a couple weeks. So you can go ahead and get a copy of that. And of course, we have a Humble Bundle up. But what do you want to give out, Nathan? We'll leave this one up to you.
Let's give out Home first.
Let's give out a copy of Home.
Right. Dude, are we editing this out or leaving it in as, like, tantalizing?
I'm leaving it in because editing sucks, and I have a lot more to do of it for other podcasts, so...
Oh, okay, I was saying the rationalization could be like, be here for the live version. You might get some stuff.
There you go.
But okay.
We're recording Mondays, so...
Right.
That's pretty solid. Like, we've decided Monday's a good day.
Consistent. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna give away... Let's give away 2 copies of Home. Okay, so we'll give it out to the first 2 people in the chat that can name one of the movies Nathan talked about.
Oh, right, they're not seeing the list.
No.
Yes, and a lot of people weren't paying attention because they hadn't seen them, so...
Yeah.
No.
Why did you say no?
I'm talking to Paul, see, because I was talking about ParaNorman because you were talking about ParaNorman. Oh, in the chat? I'm saying in the podcast. Are they not hearing the audio?
Yeah, they're hearing you. Sorry, let me clarify that. One of the movies Nathan saw that he talked about in his portion, so not ParaNorman or Cabin in the Woods.
This past week, okay. Smash Taper has
Smash Taper got one.
Right.
Alright, so I already have his info. I will DM him. And I'll just put his name right beside this here.
And there's a second question, right?
Yeah, you ask it.
Okay. Second question. This, I guess you can turn to Google for this one. What is one of the 12 attractions in NintendoLand?
Oh, Jesus, I don't even know that.
Yeah. See? Name one of the 12 attractions in NintendoLand.
See, that's what happens when you're not here earlier. And by the way, for people not knowing,
Living Room Lady, what it's called?
Living Room Lady in the chat is my lovely girlfriend, Erin. So.
Oh, crap. I actually have to make sure one is exactly...
Dude, you don't even know.
I don't even know. They didn't choose the ones I thought.
I don't know if you can ask that question then.
No, dude, Mario. I said they could look it up, so I can look it up too. Mario Chase is correct.
Mario Chase? Okay, so Atriff. Alex got another copy. Okay.
There you go.
So we'll do the Humble Bundle after we talk about games, I guess?
After we talk about games, that makes more sense. Give out a bunch of games after games are talked about.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. Speaking of Nintendo Land, I played a lot of that.
So has that gotten boring yet?
Not all of them. In fact, actually, this week I discovered what the attraction mode, I actually played that.
Yeah.
It's kind of just the party game layer to that game.
Right.
It throws in random bits and pieces from various minigame attraction things into one multiplayer experience.
Who have you been playing with?
Just Brittany so far.
Okay.
It's been 2-player, which kind of modifies some of the games, which makes it a little less awesome.
Right, but the Game Grumps, as we've been talking with the chat in the pre-show, have been doing Nintendo Land, and it's pretty good. Just watching them actually makes me want a Wii U, which is annoying because I know I'm not going to get a Wii U until something really pushes me.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. I'm glad it was a pack-in. It's still fun, but I'm still glad I didn't have to kind of buy it separately, pay $60 for it or whatever. But yeah, it's a fun bit of business. The main one I've been playing this week was Donkey Kong's Crash Course. I made it to the end of the first area, like the end of the first board.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess you need to then revisit the game later. My understanding was you'd get there and then it would flip and you'd keep playing, but instead you get there, it claims you kind of won, but then if you revisit it, it'll show you that in fact there is more to the game. You just have to play through what you just did again.
Ugh.
Yeah. There's a lot of that kind of old school NES kind of mentality to how these play. Like, it's just like, hey, start over. You know, you lost, so play it again. You're just like, this is how these used to work, so okay. And they're definitely evoking kind of older Nintendo games in some cases. Like, there's a Balloon Trip one that does that, and it's kind of weird just to have, like, anything resembling a sequel to Balloon Trip. So that's kind of cool. But it's, yeah, you definitely have to have a pretty high degree of patience for some of this stuff. But you're getting better each time you play, so on. I also cashed in all my coins. I had hundreds and hundreds of them. 260 or something, just in the kind of pachinko, plinko, Peggle-esque minigame thing where you're dropping stuff through. You haven't played it.
No.
Yeah, I'm just saying things. There's a minigame where you unlock bonus trinkets and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. It's a fun little game. I continue to enjoy it. And yeah, Nintendo Land. I also played Home, which is why I kind of wanted to.
Yeah, we both played Home. Well, I played Home a bit ago, but
yeah.
So it's gonna be kind of weird talking about Home after giving away 2 copies of it.
Oh, why is that?
Okay.
Well, I don't have like super negative opinions of it or anything. It's just it's kind of I don't want to.
We can't get into spoiler territory for one thing.
Yeah,
so that makes it weird.
with this game, to the point where like we were gonna talk to the guy, like Benjamin Rivers, and it's just like, well, how do we talk about his game without inadvertently spoiling his game for everyone who would find out about it?
Like, in a way, I guess you can't really spoil it because they give you so little to work with, which is part of the charm of the game, that you kind of make up the story with what they give you and the context behind everything. But then at the same time, again, how do you describe that to somebody that hasn't played it without spoiling it? You know? Like, it's just weird territory to get into.
Right. I guess just generally talking about how it plays, like, it's kind of an adventure game. It definitely visually and the way it kind of handled reminded me of Maniac Mansion, but you're just controlling one guy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're just one dude walking around in this weird house and stuff, and then you go to different areas and whatever. The transitions reminded, like, the doors and things, that's just Resident Evil, right?
Yeah.
Like, they just, like, hey...
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, like
I think it's there to build tension, though.
Yeah, like video of that door opening or going downstairs and stuff. I guess, yeah, the Maniac Mansion comparison, I will say that doesn't necessarily mean there's jokes in it. It's not supposed to be funny. Like, it's meant to be kind of more of a serious, moody horror type journey. But yeah, I can't really say exactly what happens towards the end. There are some choices, and there's some branching paths where you can miss stuff, which I wasn't really, sure was going on until later. Like, I'd exit an area, and it's just like, my character would then kind of say to himself, man, I wish I really used this key I found and opened that thing and found out what was in there. Oh, well. And I'd just be like, oh, crap, I missed the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. It took me about an hour, my playthrough. I definitely feel like I missed 1 or 2 things I'd kind of be curious to go back and see.
Was one of them the tape?
The tape, yeah, I forgot to actually...
I didn't do it either, so...
Yeah. I assumed that would come up and I'd be able to watch the video at some point, and then it's just like, no, you had to actually open that door and go in that room and find the VCR. It's just like, oh, okay.
And also there was, what is it, like, what are they called now? Like a vault at the end? Where you need a combination. I didn't know the combination.
Right. I'm gonna say maybe there was a bug there, or maybe I just didn't know how to exit it or whatever. When I accidentally clicked on the safe without knowing I knew I didn't know the combination. I was just like, oh, maybe I can just figure it out.
Did you try Rachel as well?
No.
Okay. Because
I just started kind of mashing buttons by accident.
Oh.
Well, I was holding down Y when I pressed it, and then it just typed Y a bunch of times. I was like, oh, crud. But is there... is there no way to exit that menu if you don't have the combination?
I
'Cause
don't think so.
Yeah, I had to quit the game and then reload it again,
Hmm.
which seemed like, what? Like, how is that the thing? Like, there's very few controls. It's just kind of you walking and you interacting with stuff. I'm gonna say maybe that, knowing that too, kind of hurt some of the tension from the game for me,
Hmm.
because like I knew there wasn't like an action button or like a inventory or any of that stuff. It's very stripped down to the point where I was like, pretty early was like, I don't think anything's gonna really jump out because it can't, because the mechanics don't exist for it.
Hmm.
And sure enough, it kind of just doesn't happen that way. Like there's stuff you discover, but it's not in that kind of Resident Evil type way, despite it looking like that for a little bit,
And
right?
almost kind of trying for it. Like, without, obviously, the action parts of their shit attacking you all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
We can't say much more on
yeah,
that,
we're
I
getting
guess.
close to kind of revealing all the stuff, but I do like some of the things they reveal. I do like some of the plot points they investigate that other games don't and such. Specifically stuff they don't do. But again, I can't really get into it. Just, I guess, stay tuned for the indie talk with Benjamin Rivers, and it'll give you some time to check it out. It was like $1 over the last Steam sale.
Was it?
Um, yeah, and it's typically like $4 or something, right?
Yeah, I think I paid full price for it.
But full price is what, 5 or
I think
something?
it was 5, yeah.
Yeah, like it's not very much. It's out there, so
Yeah.
out on Steam or whatever. Um, and yeah, it's pretty easy to get through, and there's some interesting little things here and there. So yeah, maybe catch up on that, and then you can listen to that podcast knowing exactly what we're getting at. That'll be in some weeks or whatever. So
Hmm.
okay. And briefly, I played the home version of Super Hexagon,
How
which
is that?
it's fine. It kind of really is dependent on how like good your keyboard is.
Okay.
Because like the touchscreen ones, they're all kind of tuned to left, right, and you have exactly a defined level of control over it.
Yeah.
Whereas this is highly relative to your keyboard as to whether or not you're having a good time or a really frustrating time. So I've played on 3 different ones. Brittany's wireless keyboard, terrible. Don't Not saying
Yeah.
keyboard necessarily, but the way it was handling that stuff, like I just needed more subtlety to left and right than I had.
So, like, a gaming keyboard would be fine, probably?
Probably. She also has this like weird little remote keyboard thing that was better. You have more like little tiny clicky buttons, and
Okay.
that I had a better degree of control.
Mhm.
And then I finally played it with mine today and got further than I did on either of those on the first stage, because it's all like the same speed and the same song as the mobile one. So I should be pretty okay at these already because I've already gotten through these levels. So yeah, I got to 45 seconds on the first level just before we started recording and stuff on mine. So yeah, it's kind of odd to have that variable in there.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist on the mobile one because it's like you have it on the iPhone. All of the iPhones work this way. But yeah, it was a little different. But yeah, it's cool to have it on big screen. It runs super fine because it's like a super simplistic kind of game, but it still looks cool and everything.
And that's Kavanaugh, right?
Yeah, Terry Kavanagh,
Yeah.
Mr.
That's
So,
a guy I would love to talk to.
yeah, like, I've seen video of him playing his own game, and he's very, very good at it.
Well, obviously.
Yeah, I haven't
Because
really.
I'm sure he got used to it as he was designing it. So,
Or like fine tuning.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not sure what really his like design theory is, or what kind of what he's all about. But yeah, I'm sure he's an interesting guy. But yeah, that was pretty. I think that's the last of the games I really played. I didn't really tinker around with much else that I can recall. I cleared out a bunch of hard drive space and downloaded a bunch more Steam stuff, so I'm ready to go on some business.
What did you download, if you can remember anything off the top of your head?
Basement Collection. I have
Nice.
all of that now.
You didn't really have to clear anything off for that, but okay.
It was like 4 gigs, but
Oh, wow, really?
yeah, I was a little surprised. I guess there's a lot of stuff. I'm trying to think what else there was really. Oh, Home. I installed Home. That game we just talked about.
Yeah, that game that we just gave away 3 copies because I'm an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And I messaged the wrong person, so congratulations for getting that for free for my stupidity.
Right. To the Moon. I also threw that on there. I've been meaning to look into that.
Which one is To the Moon? Is
I
that the
guess
one
it's
where you
kinda,
switch around the level?
I'm not really sure. I was told it was mostly kind of a visual story. It was in the Indie Royale bundle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
I don't.
recognize the name, I just can't picture it in my head, but I guess that doesn't really matter anymore. You know what is not indie?
What?
Bungie.
Bungie isn't really indie. That's true.
No, so I played Halo 3 ODST because I hate indie games, apparently. That's not the segue I was trying to make at all. But
Although this is the pretentious person's Halo.
it totally is. And
It's the favorite in, the gaming circles.
yeah, so jumping back into that, it
Yeah.
holds up quite well. I really like what they do with it. Like, I never finished the game completely. I'm around the end, so I
Mhm.
threw it in to see if I was just going to be able to finish it off and get it over with. But I didn't because I just didn't. I had other games to play, and I got kind of tired of it because it's a Halo game, and I only play them a certain amount in one sitting. But for the most part, I really like what they do with the whole flashbacks thing. Like, you're walking around this desolate, destroyed area with just these remnants of the Covenant that have been around, and
Mhm.
you're just like taking them out, trying to get to the next beacon or whatever they call it in that game. And it kind of loads up a memory or like the past.
Like
And then,
flashbacks of what that dude did on
right,
his
and
mission. Yeah.
it's the same reason why I like Demon's Souls for the hub world. It just kind of gives you a little in between break.
Yeah. No, Hub World is definitely the most interesting part about it.
Yeah, and
Like
yeah,
the mood is totally different.
it's so good because it has a very film noir style to it,
Mhm.
and the music is very jazzy. Like,
Saxophone.
yeah, it's a very very jazz influenced, I would say, because it's really jazz, but it has that sound.
Smoky.
Smoky, yeah, exactly.
This is what the kids say. I don't know. I played it a while ago. Nathan Fillion's in it. In fact, the cast of Firefly is in Halo 3 ODST.
Yeah, they are.
Pretty much. It's weird.
I also
And
like that you're not Master Chief.
I also like that you're not Master Chief, because who cares? It doesn't really matter.
At the same, like, for the gameplay, it's weird to get back into because I've been playing Halo 4, so I'm used to
Mhm.
the shield thing and being able to run in that and that whole thing. And then
Right.
going back to this, you have to pick up health packs because you're not Master Chief.
Well, you're not Master Chief in Halo 1. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, you are in Halo 1, but there was health kits in that anyway.
Right. No, I just
it
mean
doesn't matter.
with the whole like first person conventions in any game now where you can just sit back a little bit and heal.
Right.
Yeah. So they still have the sort of thing where you can just wait a little bit and you'll regenerate enough to keep going,
Hmm.
but you can still just forget about that completely and get killed really quickly. And I kind of like that. I've always liked that about Halo games specifically because essentially what they're giving you with the Halo games is like a template where they're like, okay, we're throwing this, this, and this at you, go. It's, the combat in it really isn't that scripted. So
No, yeah, it has that very open-ended combat stuff. Like, it's just this dynamic of enemies are coming at you, and you can take that on in a number of different ways. Just
Yeah.
figure it out. Yeah. A lot of improvisation.
Yeah, a lot of it. And yeah, I don't know. And just really just the feel of ODST for me is really good. So going back to that after playing Halo 4 was a little bit of a shock gameplay wise, like mechanically,
Mhm.
but it felt a lot better. I miss playing that game, so I'm probably going to finish off ODST before going back to 4 at all.
Okay.
So I guess that says something in how strong that game was made, because that was 3 years ago now? That was like 2009-ish, I believe.
Was it, or was it 2010?
No, it wasn't 2010.
Well, Reach wasn't 11?
Was Reach 10?
Reach might have been 10 then, and then ODST was 09.
Because did we have one at all last year?
Like, I just have no real sense of how long ago
time is. I know.
Yeah, time has kind of changed to the
Yeah.
point where I'm not even sure anymore. But you might be right. It might be '09. I know it was. I was there for the launch of Reach.
Yeah, Reach was 10.
Games. Okay. So
Yeah.
Right. I should have just thought of my employment history. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, and then talking about first-person games. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, what? Yeah.
I wanted to ask briefly about 4. Have you gotten to the Prometheans?
Yeah, dude. That's in the first, 2 hours. It's really...
Do they suck?
Yeah, they suck. They are so bad, and I can't imagine Legendary how badly that's gonna be.
Okay.
Should we get into this quickly?
I just why I'm asking is because Chris Remo took a specific exception to the Prometheans and how they play.
Yeah.
To the point where he do you play on Legendary or?
I play co-op on Legendary after I get the story playing through Heroic.
Oh, you play Heroic by yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever the yeah. Yeah,
the second highest one, right?
Yeah.
He felt through a decade of kind of just refinement and stuff, Bungie really figured out the Covenant and how they play. Mm-hmm. And then here we have 343 kind of introducing their new enemies, and then he just feels they just don't have the same level of they just haven't been workshopped enough to where they fit together right, and they just feel kind of cheap.
I wouldn't say that's the problem so much. When you look at the Covenant...
That's a summary of a bunch of thoughts. But
when you look at the Covenant specifically, they all represent a different part of a fighting force. So when you have an army, you have the snipers, you have the grunts in the front, you have the heavies, you have all that sort of thing.
It's almost like a chess game. You have your pawn dudes or the grunts, and then you have your big heavy people that are... you
have the grunts running around doing stupid shit, but they have the needlers, so you still gotta be careful and take them out, make sure they don't overwhelm you, because they're usually higher numbers. You have the elites jumping around because they're more agile, and they have bigger weapons, and they're harder to take down because they have shields. Then you have the, 1 or 2 brutes every now and then that are just messing everything up. You have the... whatever the hell those sniper guys are called, just kind of in the shadows doing their thing. Yeah. It is essentially a chess game when you're doing something in Halo, but it's very freeform, freestyle. You were saying, improvisational, really?
Well, yeah, you're just I just jumped over this thing, threw a sticky grenade, and then I had to run behind this thing, grab a health kit, and you're just
It's almost the same feeling you get with Hotline Miami, if you want to be completely honest about it, because... you have the situation, but where Hotline Miami is much... right? Hotline Miami is scripted, because you know where the guys are at all times, and they move around a little bit, but you get a general idea of that.
Right, it's hard to really have too many different scenarios break down at a certain point, because it's more Smash TV, you shoot them and they're done. Mm-hmm. It's not you hurt a guy, and then you had to run, and now he's kind of pissed off and going in a different route than he would have before. It's no, that's not a factor in that game.
And the great thing also with Halo games, to get a little bit off the point, is that you go in, you mess up, you die, you're back in right away. Mm-hmm. That Super Meat Boy quality to it, where you can just keep trying the same part over and over from the checkpoint. The checkpointing system gets a little weird in some points, but that's probably a different conversation. The problem with the Prometheans or Protheans or whatever they are, is that they are essentially just there to eat up all your ammo because they have so many shields, they can teleport, and they can climb on walls.
Oh, yeah, he did actually make the observation about the ammo eating. It's just you take out the Covenant, and then you basically just have to unload on the Prometheans and hope that does it.
It's not even at the point where it's you take out the Covenant. You get to that point eventually where there's Covenant and Protheans. Are they Protheans? I think they're Protheans.
I think they're Prometheans.
Protheans are the Mass Effect.
Yeah, right. And that's another conversation going around of how similar all of this stuff sounds after a while.
Yeah.
The ancient race that's way better. And
but only you can stop it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The engineers, basically.
Yeah, so the Prometheans, the problem with them is you get into a point where you're fighting Covenant and Prometheans at the same time, and they're fighting each other as well. So at those points and the difficulty I'm on, I found it easier to just run past everything and let them deal with each other and take out whatever I have to, which I hope is the Covenant. The problem with the Prometheans is as soon as you see one, you just look at your clip and just know, okay, well, I gotta find another gun as soon as I'm done with this, because this gun will be useless. they take so much ammo. It's just so unbalanced that's what doesn't make them fun. You don't get that thrill of playing a high speed, high risk chess game.
Okay.
You're playing dump as much shit as you can into this guy without getting hit, and then find another gun.
Yeah, it sounds like kind of a different thing. I don't know.
Like,
all right.
in Spec Ops: The Line, you know those heavies that you meet later on?
Oh, yeah, like the bomb suit guys?
It's essentially like that, where you're just unloading into them.
Right, and you're not like, oh man, this is so intense. It's more just like, ugh.
I'm so annoyed because now I have nothing. Yeah, that's exactly what it's like.
Whereas, yeah, like in Halo, when a hunter shows up, you're like, oh shit, this is bad. We have to deal with this in a very specific way. Whereas, yeah, it's not quite the same reaction you get from cheap warping guy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but okay, so generally Halo 4 is still fine, but you're going back to ODST to finish that up.
Yeah.
And speaking of first-person video games, sorry, I hijacked that earlier.
It's fine. I'm playing Dishonored.
All right.
And I was not into that game for the first 20 minutes or so, and now it got its hooks in me, and I want to play really badly.
Okay.
Yeah, the first 20 minutes or so, it's generic, kind of like... It feels very much in the same way that every other Bethesda game would be, like with Skyrim and Morrowind and that whole sort of thing, where you're just kind of fighting your way through a dungeon without anything. Mm-hmm. And then you slowly get some stuff, and then you meet a guy called the Outsider, and he gives you powers.
Okay, what's with the powers, man?
See, I'm not really sure yet, but they make the game fun, so I don't care.
Okay, whereas I was introduced to the game via like the demo at E3, and they're just like, dude, you got all these dope powers, and my immediate reaction was just, why? What? And then it's just like, you can warp around, and I was just like, but what? This is silly. And I just never got over that this is silly reaction.
Right. So like, if you were going into the Assassin's Creed games or whatever, say, you get that feeling of you're sneaking up on a guy, then you grab him, and then you kill him, and then drag his body, or whatever stealth-based game, right?
Yeah.
In this, you can still do that. You can do it all legit by yourself, but it's a lot harder. Mm-hmm. So it gets really fun when you see a group of guys and you're like, okay, so I'm looking through the wall right now because I can see there's 3 guys there. As soon as this guy comes through this doorway, I'm going to slice his throat, then I'm going to teleport across to the room, grab this guy, then run up to this guy before he can attack me. Okay. It's that whole feeling of Hotline Miami again, but this is very scripted, the way they move and stuff. They patrol the way they would in like Metal Gear. You can see their line of sight if you have the dark vision on.
Okay, but to be clear, you're playing this kind of like an action game then?
I am playing it like an action game. I started playing it as very stealthy.
Yeah.
And then I found I wasn't having fun with that, and if I was this character, the way your story goes and you're kind of betrayed...
Yeah.
I'm just like, no, fuck these guys, I'm going to kill everybody. So I kill people that I don't even need to.
Okay.
And it's actually really fun. It feels very much like a BioShock, the way they're doing it.
It definitely did remind me of BioShock with the brief amount of time I played it, but okay.
Yeah.
Alright. I mean, I've definitely heard it can go kind of 2 ways. Like, yeah, you can play the super nuanced stealth route if you want, but there's also the crazy action game.
See, I think the stealth route would be great.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's one of the things I got sick of with Assassin's Creed, so I don't want to burn myself out. And I have the option to play whatever way I want when I want, so if I want to do one area stealthy, I could just do that. Like...
Right, like it doesn't have that...
You get to, too. They say... You have to take down this wall of light, which is just basically an electrical shield. Mm-hmm. And they say it gives you a tutorial little screen, and it says you can do this a variety of ways. You can get or possess a rat and crawl through there. You can go behind this and kill this guy. You can do this. And I like that it gives you open world options to create your story, I guess. I don't know. To do what you want to do in the story.
I like that there isn't a binary of, like, you've been spotted, mission failed. Mm-hmm. You know, like that it has that kind of, like, you've been spotted, murder that guy. You know, like it kind of lets you take care of that situation yourself. Still, though, like in the past paragraph or whatever, the phrase, you can possess a rat was used, and I can't get over how silly that is.
It's ridiculous, but I don't care. If it's a fun game, it doesn't matter how they get away with it.
Okay.
Because maybe I'm just not really that into the story. It's very generic so far. Dude is
Like,
making a run for the throne,
mm-hmm.
and when they do that, when he's doing that, he kills the current empress or queen or whatever, and he has you thrown in jail even though you were like a loyal savior of these people. So
Right.
it's a basic revenge plot.
Like, you're set up for a crime you didn't commit.
Mm-hmm.
You wake up from a dream and you have superpowers now,
Kind of.
and you're gonna get your vengeance on.
But one of the powers is an item, and it's a heart.
Okay.
It's a heart with like a bunch of mechanical things in it,
Okay.
and this heart shows you where like tokens are to upgrade your powers.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of great though because it's just throbbing in your hand when you have it out, and you can push a button and it'll talk to you in your mind about certain areas or people.
Right.
Yeah, it's just really weird and creepy, and I like it.
I think, yeah, it's just briefly, I just want to kind of touch on a thing that's been kind of really troubling me in terms of just how to appreciate games and whatever, like, in the past couple months.
Mm-hmm.
Like, see, Idle Thumbs has kind of found this way to kind of enjoy a game despite laughing at how dumb it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, oh man, this is so silly, but I love it. This is fun. Whereas, like, I'm just kind of caught up in this weird, moody place where it's just like, this is so silly, fuck this shit. And I'll just, like, drop it.
Okay.
Know?
That's just your own cynical nature getting the best of you, and you just can't have fun anymore then.
Kind of. At least I have yet to find a game recently that kind of breaks that spell and lets me just kind of goof around. Because, like, everything I'm seeing of Far Cry 3 looks like it falls into that same category. It's just like, as long as you don't really think about the plot and why this is happening too much, you'll have a fun time. It's a fun island. It's a fun party island, and you just shoot dudes and it's fun. And it's just like, I don't want to do that anymore. Can we have something else soon? And it's just like,
There is other stuff though, which is what the
I know.
indie guys are doing.
I know, so I've been just playing more and more of that stuff. So
Right.
I guess I'll see you later, big budget games. You know, I'll check back in a couple years maybe.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody gets burned out on a certain thing every now and then, which is why for a long time I didn't watch any horror movies, and now I'm back watching them, even though it's what I grew up with. Like, people just get sick of the same thing over and over and need diversity, so you're just going through this part where you need to get away from what the masses want and just some weird little experiments some guy in his basement's doing.
Right. So I guess, yeah, I'll go down that path for a while. Like just briefly, a lot of the stuff I'm seeing of Bioshock Infinite is really bothering me in the same way. Like, they just revealed the box art.
Mm-hmm. The box art is bad.
So generic shooter box art.
Like, I know, the box art's real bad.
And the best observation I've seen on it, like, it is the Uncharted 1 box art reversed.
Yeah.
It is the same pose, same gruff-looking dude, same hand placement and everything. And then, like, today there was like, hey, we got this hot, sexy model playing the lady, and that just reminded me, oh, right, there's, like, a damsel in distress, like, busty lady you're saving in this game. Oh, video games, you know? Like, and this is from the people who made a well-regarded thing 5 years ago, and yet they're still kind of following down this similar path. And I've heard there's weird stuff in that game. It's like time travel or something. I don't know. But it just looks so silly. So silly.
Yeah.
Where's the Lincoln game, man? Were you just the president? That's it.
Lincoln's in that game.
Yeah, but I don't want to see silly, goofy Lincoln. Anyway.
Why? He was in Simpsons. Remember? Rappin' Abe?
Yeah, Rappin' AB. I'm here to say, if you want to drink beer, Duff's the only way.
Yep.
The only way. Breakdown.
Then he got all creepy.
Yeah. That was a pretty good episode. But anyway, I guess part of this has also been stirred up by a book I've been reading called Extra Lives.
Mm-hmm.
Why Video Games Matter, which I'm only about halfway through, at least chapter-wise. I'm guessing the later chapters are much longer, because I'm like a third of the way through. But I'm halfway down the list. I don't know, whatever. It kind of also has mixed appreciation of games. Like he has a really great chapter about Resident Evil and how it kind of just changed everything.
Okay.
For better and worse, though.
Okay.
Like, it's like, you know, like the way the camera behaves in that game, the way you can't really play it well, actually helps the way the horror works.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
you come across that first zombie and you're like, oh shit, and you can't actually run away effectively because you're scared, but also because the game makes that kind of play into how it works or whatever. Like,
and all the hallways that you have to go into another part of the hallway that you can't see yet, and when you do,
and
there's a dude there.
Disorientation. Yeah, like how disoriented you get and how you can't see the thing and stuff. Like
It also works with you in the way that they don't actually start attacking you until they see you, though, usually.
Yeah, until they actually see your avatar. Like,
Yeah.
It doesn't keep that way. It just kind of limits the amount of information you have in really clever ways. And I actually really... It did bring me back to the first time seeing the remake. Like, that was the first time I experienced that game.
Yeah.
And, like, just playing it with friends, like, crowded around a TV. Like, that game was so amazingly intense at the time. Like, so unlike anything I've seen.
Well, even 4. 4 is really intense, too.
Well, 4's intense in its own way, but it's, like, a different gameplay model or whatever. Like, specifically, this talking about the whole package, like, how the game was presented to you, like, the bad cutscenes and everything and all that stuff and how it worked together. But then he does go into kind of like not really. It's like, and you know what? I'm sure a lot of developers really looked at this as like a point of inspiration. Problem is, they also took some of the writing and the goofy, bad storytelling and started doing that too. Because they're just kind of like, well, who cares? You know, it doesn't really matter as long as you have fun gameplay. It doesn't matter how dumb your story is. Because the story in the Resident Evil games is terrible.
Yeah.
It's always been really, really corny.
Yeah.
That's fine, but it's like, don't actually legitimately get caught up in those characters. That makes no sense to me, right? Like, for me, the story of those games is more like the moments when you're like, Lisa's somewhere in this room, like in this building. This is bad.
Or it was Wesker all along.
Well, no, not that stuff for
Yeah.
me. You know, like, those are the moments that fell flat. It's the gameplay moments where you just read a note on a desk and then you realize you're in the same house as like this crazy zombie.
Oh, yeah.
Like that, those kind of moments really worked.
Like the... What the hell is his name now?
Itchy, Scratchy, Tasty, whatever.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, though.
That was some good stuff, too. Like, the moments where you legitimately stumble on stuff. Also, he talks about the save system stuff.
Yeah.
The point is, he kind of breaks down these video games he views as being kind of key, at least in his appreciation of games. But he gives kind of pluses and minuses in terms of what it is. And he's very frustrated with games while loving them, kind of like I am. So I'm really enjoying this book right now. But yeah, I'll have more thoughts on it when I finish it. But okay, do you want to just touch on whatever last of it?
We should give away the Humble Bundle.
The THQ bundle?
The THQ Humble Bundle.
Right, because those guys are in trouble.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. I was just reading a story, like, despite this bundle, like, they were kind of hoping it would stir up some, you know, hey, THQ, remember how awesome they are? Their stock fell 5% more. So, who knows how long we'll have a THQ. But, whatever. Video games. What's all in the bundle? What do we got?
All in the bundle? Alright, well, the most important game, arguably, and you probably will argue with me.
I might, actually, yeah.
Is Saints Row the Third.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. But okay.
What game in here do you like?
Metro.
Metro's pretty good.
Although, actually, wait, I've yet to really delve into it. I've heard more about Company of Heroes, so I want to check it out, but I don't know how good it is.
Yeah, I've never played Company of Heroes, honestly.
Just that's one of those PC-only games from like 8 years ago that I just never really saw.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how good it is, but
okay, so we got Saints Row the Third, we got Darksiders, the best Legend of Zelda game out there. We got Metro 2033. Yeah. We got Red Faction Armageddon, which I haven't played, but I heard it's not as good as the other Red Faction.
It's apparently just really different than Guerrilla, so it's like a fun third-person shooter.
Yeah.
But you wanted an open-world game, so
I haven't played it yet, so
it's just in there though. It's just part of the bundle, whatever.
Yeah. And then you got Company of Heroes Opposing Fronts, and Company of Heroes Tales of Valor. So that's all available up for grabs right now. And how do you want to do this one? Because we only have one of this, unfortunately.
Right. Like, you're saying... Well, it's probably trivia again, or should we have some other thing?
Yeah, let's do trivia.
This is again for the chat?
This is for the chat, yeah.
Okay.
Because we already had one on Pixel Response that I have already emailed the winners of, so...
Alright. Okay, there this is totally in lieu of just something I said in the chat. Is it okay if I just take this and make my own dumb trivia
Yeah,
question?
do it.
Again, you know, you can use the internet if you have to, but if you know it off the top of your head, you're awesome.
Well, the first one to answer, obviously.
Right. Who are the two lead designers on the real best Legend of Zelda game, Majora's Mask?
Okay, I was going to say you have to say the name, though. You can't
Oh,
just say the best.
I do know the names. But
No, I mean, you had to say the name of the Legend of Zelda game you were talking about. You can't just say who were the lead
best
of the
one.
best one.
You know.
You
Yeah,
know.
Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask. Who was the co-leads? Specifically, I'm interested in one of the two, because he just gets overshadowed all the time. But, yeah, this guy's awesome. So, get your Wikipedia on. You know, it only costs a cup of coffee to support them.
Yeah.
Jokes. They're I don't know.
They're in dire straits, it seems.
Yeah, every year, Wikipedia.
It's really unfortunate, too. I really like their site. It's probably the most important one on the internet.
In terms of just like, hey, free information for everybody.
That people can do.
Okay. Smash Taper has one of them, but there's another guy, co-director. What's his name?
Oh, that's the one you're going after, right?
That's the one I really want.
Okay, I know who you're talking about. Okay.
This guy came up with the central mechanics of that game. Hells yeah.
Yeah, he said it.
Knew me. That guy's the best developer on the scene. I don't know. He's really great though. Smash Taper gets it.
And did he say both of them?
Earlier he said IG Onuma. Is that how you pronounce it? Onuma-san? Whatever. That guy stuck around, but he went on to direct some of the worst Zelda games. So, dismissive, grumbly.
Alright, so you're calling it Smash Taper gets it?
Smash Taper gets it.
Alright, Smash Taper, you have me on Skype. Skype me your email address, and I will send that off to you right away.
Yay! Also, Majora's Mask is great. Check it out.
It's pretty good. I think that could do with a remake, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it getting touched up, honestly, in some areas, but it's more just like the central premise is so weird that it really sets it apart from the rest of them. I don't know. It's awesome.
The gimmick, if you will, to it. The thing that makes it different than the other games.
Yeah, the central core twist is just enough to make that kind of, you gotta go through these dungeons, kind of intense again. So, yeah.
Yeah, 3DS remake of Majora's Mask would be great, for sure. Alright, so I think that'll do it, but you were saying Next Generation's on Netflix, woo!
Yeah, Star Trek The Next Generation, all of it is on Netflix up here in Canada. I don't know if that's been the case in the States for a while or not, but I watched Who Watches the Watchers last night.
Yeah?
Good.
Was it pretty amazing?
It was a pretty overtly atheist episode. It was awesome. It's just like, no, I won't let them believe in that nonsense again. We must save them. And you're just like, okay. Thanks, Captain.
Oh, I guess since we have a live chat, if anybody has any questions they want us to answer, maybe we'll take one or two.
Alright. Have I seen that video remake?
That's not a question.
It has a question mark in it, dude.
Alright.
Yeah. Any questions?
Alright, so... Smash Taper, I have sent you your link there, so check your email. But yeah, I don't know. Majora's Mask.
What is SS in terms of Zelda games?
SS? Skyward Sword, I'm guessing?
Oh, Skyward Sword.
Or Spirit Tracks?
No, Skyward Sword. I was thinking
ST,
Spirit Tracks,
because you said Spirit.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't you agree that Ocarina of Time is best, Nathan?
It was the first at doing the 3D thing right.
It did it very well.
It sure did. I mean, I've played it a bunch of times, but it's more just like it didn't deviate from the central, Princess Lady gets captured by Ganon-esque dude, and it turns out to actually be Ganon. It's a remake, kind of. Whereas Majora's Mask is its own bold new thing. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. But I played through Ocarina of Time probably more, just because it came out earlier and stuff, and I was playing it. But, yeah, I was more troubled and impacted by what happened.
You know what Ocarina of Time is better than?
A lot of games.
Waker?
Probably, yeah. I like some things Wind Waker does too, but that, traversing the world and stuff. Like, I tried playing again during my GameCube Nostalgia Week, and I stopped pretty early, because the good stuff takes too long to get to. So, yeah. Fair enough.
Fair enough. And with that, as always, facebook.com/thepixelresponse to follow us on Facebook. Email address if you have any questions, comments, concerns is podcast@pixel-response.com. On Twitter, we're at pixel_response. You can get me at Exposure, EXFAUXSURE. You can get Nathan at Krasnor, KRAZNOR.
Yeah.
Look for us on Stitcher. Just look up Pixel Response. We're there. Give us the thumbs up. Do all that bullshit. And as always, visit http://pixel-response.com for more.
And the chat's just fighting about Zelda now.
That's... Everybody always fights about Zelda.
Yo, what about Link to the Past?
I don't know. Zelda 2, Link's Adventure. Best one. And with that, we're out.